welcomes all of you to another exciting session. We have reached the last chapter of our second volume text, chapter 8, The Path Traversed by Life. What do you mean by traverse? Yes, the travel or the journey of our life. Have you ever thought how the earth originated? How could such a huge biodiversity of life evolve? Not to worry, we are having a detailed discussion of all these facts coming under this topic. So dear students, chapter 8 will help you to understand the origin of earth as well as the life on earth. Let's have a look on chapter at a glance here. Origin of earth, origin of life, theories of evolution, evidences of evolution, evolution of human beings, impact of human interventions on biodiversity. Oh, one of my friends is waiting outside. It's a surprise. Shall I call it in? This is time machine. It will take us to witness the spectacular events in the journey of evolution. Hey children, let's join in this amazing trip. Shall we go?
Okay, let's fly off.
Wow, the journey starts around 5 billion years ago. The universe is very vast and it is very old. Its age is about 20 billion years. The universe is comprised of huge clusters of galaxies. Galaxies are formed of stars and clouds of gas and dust. Stellar distances are measured in light years. When we consider the size of universe, Earth is indeed a speck. The oldest meteorite fragments found on Earth are about 4.5 billion years old. This, coupled primarily with the dating of ancient lead deposits, has put the estimated age of Earth at around that time. The journey starts almost 5 billion years ago. In the primitive stage, they were full of dust, along with sun and the newborn stars. Slowly, the gravity pulls the dust, and over millions of years, gravity holds these rocks to form the Earth, while hundreds of planets encircling the sun. The cosmic missile attack were quite common. The temperature was very high, 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. There is no air, just carbon dioxide, nitrogen and water vapor. This newborn planet is boiling ball of liquid rock, endless ocean of lava. Young planet called Theia heading towards the Earth and hit and collide. Blast wave rises around the planet, converting both the planet turn to liquid form. Trillions of tons of debris blast out into space. But on course of 1,000 years, gravity turns into a ring of red-hot dust and rocks that circles the Earth. From this ring, a ball forms over 2,000 miles wide. It is the birth of our moon. But it is much closer than the moon today. It is just 14,000 miles away. The spinning rate of Earth is very fast than the days last for 6 hours. The days may fast, but changes in the earth were slow. A hail of meteorites attacked the earth. Inside the meteorites contain crystals which looks like grains of salt. They are minute droplets of water. These act as vital ingredient of life on earth. Only small amount of water exists inside each meteorite, but as they bombard the earth for 20 million years, this gradually results in solidification of earth crust. However, the interior remains as molten part. Every drop of water in every ocean is billions of years old, and it may travel millions of years to reach us. With the passage of years, the gases condensed into a molten core and different elements got stratified according to their density. The heavy metals such as iron, nickel, etc. sank deep into the center and formed the core. However, the lighter elements like silicon, aluminium, etc. form the middle layer, while the lighter elements like hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, etc. form the gaseous part. One of the fascinating and curious questions is how life originated on Earth. It remains as a most complicated problem for scientists, thinkers, and philosophers and naturalists. There are several theories, including both scientific and unscientific, have been proposed to explain the origin of life.
Panspermia Theory. The Panspermia Theory suggests that life existed in outer space and was transported by meteorites, asteroids, or comets to a receptive Earth. So the Panspermia argues that life originated in some other planet in the universe and accidentally reached the Earth. The organic substances obtained from the meteors that fell on Earth support this. Chemical Evolution Theory. The Russian scientist A.I. Oparin and the British scientist J.B.S. Haldane are the proponents of this theory. It is one of the most widely accepted theory due to its experimental evidences. According to this theory, life originated as a result of changes that occurred in chemical substances in seawater under specific conditions in primitive Earth. So, according to Oparin and Haldane, life originated as a result of chemical reaction. This is a simple illustration showing how the life originated on Earth. Here you can see the primitive Earth contained gases like hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, water vapor, hydrogen sulfide, etc. And the most striking feature is that there were no free oxygen available in the primitive Earth. The thunder and lightning, ultraviolet radiations, and volcanic eruptions are the major sources of energy for all these chemical reactions. As a result of condensation of water vapor present in the atmosphere, results in incessant rain led to the formation of oceans. Chemical reactions proceeds, resulting in the formation of simple organic molecules such as amino acids, monosaccharides, nitrogen bases, fatty acids, etc. Later, they result in the formation of complex organic molecules such as proteins, polysaccharides, nucleotides, lipids, etc. The chemical reaction still proceeds, which finally result in the formation of nucleic acid and lipid layer. Thus, the primitive cell originate. Oparin-Haldane theory of organic evolution was experimentally proven by Harold Urey and Stanley Miller in 1953. To prove this, they designed a glass apparatus experiment. Urey and Miller in their experiment created a condition which was similar to that of primitive Earth. In this apparatus, they circulated a mixture of water vapor, methane, ammonia and hydrogen. The mixture was treated with high electric lightning shock. The electric shock stimulated the lightning of primitive Earth. The mixture was then cooled in a condenser to liquefy, and liquid was collected in another flask. After 2 weeks of treatment of liquid was analyzed by chromatography. They found many simple organic compounds, especially amino acids, which is considered as the prime molecule for the origin of life. So Urey and Miller conducted their experiment by artificially recreating the atmosphere of primitive Earth that contained methane, ammonia, hydrogen and water vapor. Later, many scientists designed similar experiments and more organic compounds were synthesized. This finally gave more acceptance to Oparin-Haldane hypothesis. So, in the oceans of primitive Earth, organic compounds were formed due to chemical evolution that continued for millions of years. So, this is an geological time scale which indicates the origin of each group of organisms in our ancient Earth. So, the first primitive cell formed around 3,800 million years ago. Modifications happened which led to the formation of prokaryotes around 3,500 million years ago. What do you mean by prokaryotes? Prokaryotes are simple celled organisms without a definite nucleus. This is followed by the formation of eukaryotes and its colonies around 1,500 million years ago. And finally, the multicellular organisms evolved, which happened around 1,000 million years ago. The next theory we are going to discuss is Lamarckism. This theory was proposed by Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. The great pioneering step to explain the history of evolution was made by Lamarck. His theory is popularly known as theory of inheritance of acquired characters. Lamarckism consists of 4 points. Reaction to the environment. According to Lamarck, environment plays an important role in influencing the form of living organism. This influence makes changes in their habits. Second one is the effect of needs. Lamarck thought that the change of habits may initiate the formation of new organ or may bring the modification of existing organ or structure. The third point, he proposed that use and disuse theory. The constant use of an organ changes its efficiency and size and leads to its better development. On the other hand, if any organ is not used for a long time, it leads to the reduction in efficiency and finally leads to its disappearance. For use theory, Lamarck believed that the long and the front legs of giraffe are the result of continuous use. And for disuse theory, he pointed out the example of degenerated wings of kiwi. The next point he mentioned is the inheritance of acquired characters. Lamarck believed that the characters acquired during the lifetime of an organism are passed on to progeny. For example, the long neck of giraffe and degenerated wings of kiwi are acquired characters that are inherited by their offsprings generation after generation. The characters developed during the lifetime of organisms are called acquired character. So Lamarck explained that these characters accumulate through generation and lead to the formation of new species. So according to Lamarck, giraffes had short necks in the beginning. When they face food scarcity, they stretch their necks to reach out to tall trees. Thus giraffe with long necks emerge through generations. Similarly, the degenerated wings of kiwi are also the examples cited by Lamarck. The next theory we are going to discuss is about natural selection. Charles Robert Darwin, the propounder of the theory of natural selection. A logical scientific theory on evolution was first put forward by Charles Robert Darwin, an English naturalist. Darwin adopted a scientific method for formulating the inferences through observation and data analysis. This scientific credibility paved way for the larger acceptance of Darwin's theory of evolution. Darwin's voyage to the Galapagos Island in the ship HMS Beagle was a turning point both in his life and in the history of theory of evolution. Charles Darwin formulated his theory of evolution on the basis of studies conducted on organisms in Galapagos Island. The Galapagos Island is a volcanic island in Pacific Ocean. It is considered as one of the world's foremost destinations for wildlife viewing. A province of Ecuador, it lies about 1,000 kilometers off its coast. It is an isolated terrain shelter for a diversity of plant and animal species. Charles Darwin visited in 1835, and his observation of Galapagos species later inspired by his theory of evolution. Here you can see the distribution of Galapagos Island in the Pacific Ocean. The Galapagos is rich in its biodiversity. The varieties of iguanas, different types of tortoises. Most spectacular feature Darwin noted is the finches in Galapagos Island. Finch is a small sparrow-like bird and it shows great diversity. Darwin finches are a group of about 18 species of passerine birds. They are well known for their remarkable diversity in beak form and function. So here you can see the different varieties of finches which are having different beak shape and food habits. Finches were one among the organisms observed and closely studied by Darwin in Galapagos Islands. The differences in the beaks of these finches attracted Darwin. Insectivorous finches have small beaks and those that feed on cactus plant have long and sharp beaks. There were also woodpecker finches that use sharp beaks to pick small twigs for feeding on worms from the holes in tree trunks. The ground finch that feed on seeds with large beaks were also present. The theories of Darwin is known as natural selection. We commonly call it as Darwinism. According to this, every species produces more number of offsprings than that can survive on earth. They compete with one another for food, space and mates. The competition becomes hard when the number of organisms is more and the availability of resources is less. Many variations are visible in organisms. These variations may be favorable or unfavorable. Those with favorable variations survive in the struggle for existence. Others are eliminated. Variations are inherited through generations and repeated differently help to form species that are different from ancestors. This type of selection done by nature leads to diversity of species that we see around us. This is the explanation of Darwin's theory, which is known as theory of natural selection. So, this theory is summarized in the form of a flowchart here. So, organisms with variations produce offsprings in large number. They undergo struggle for existence. Those with no favorable variations destroyed and others undergo natural selection. They survive and favorable variations are transferred to next generation and accumulation of variation inherited through generation which finally result in the origin of new species. Criticism of Darwinism. Though Darwin identified the continuous variations occurred in organism, he could not explain the reason for these variations. During his period, there was no idea regarding genes, chromosomes, etc. Another idea that influenced Darwin's speculations about diversity of beaks of finches was that of Thomas Robert Malthus, an economist. Rate of food production is not proportionate to the growth of human population. Thomas Robert Malthus pointed out that scarcity of food leads to diseases, starvation, and struggle for existences. Mutation Theory. It was proposed by Hugo de Vries. The sudden heritable changes in the genes are called mutation. Mutation theory explains that new species are formed by inheritance of such changes. Mutations that cause variations lead to the evolution of species. So, unlike the other process, it is a spontaneous one. Mutation in plants. Here you can see the variations which are heritable from one generation to another generations among plant group. The change in the flower color, the fruit color, shape of the fruit, all are examples of mutations. Not only in plants, in animals too, mutations are there. Some are favorable while others are not favorable. Here you can see some of the mutations in animal world. In humans also, mutations are very common. Here you can see the color of iris of a person differ. Then webbed toes and fingers are another examples of mutations. The next theory we are going to discuss is NeoDarwinism. Darwinism was revised in the light of new information from the field of genetics, cytology, geology and paleontology. What do you mean by genetics? Yes, very good. Study of genes and its properties. Cytology is a branch of science that deals with the study of cells. Geology, based on the geographical areas, and paleontology, study of fossils. This modified version of Darwinism is known as NeoDarwinism. So, according to Neo-Darwinism, organisms may evolve due to various processes. For example, isolation due to geographical peculiarities and so on. Here you can see the evolution of a horse. 50 million years ago, horse was a very small organism just like a donkey and all. Later, small changes happened and they evolved into Mesohippus, Merychippus, Pleohippus, and finally the modern horse, the Equus. So, as the evolution proceeds, you can see the various changes in the organism. Another example is the evolution of elephant. The ancestor of elephant is small in size and they are having a short trunk and tusk. Later, various changes happened in the brain size as well as the tusk and trunk, which result in the evolution of modern elephant. Next example is about the marsupials in Australia. Marsupials are basically the pouched mammals, the close relatives of kangaroos and all. So they are confined only to Australia. So it's an example for geographical isolation. Another exciting example is Bactrian camel and Arabian camel. So basically both are camels, but because of the difference in their habitat, they also differ in size and shape. Bear world, different types of bears, basically all are bears, but they differ in shape, size, food habits and all, depending on the habitat they belong. So, American black bear, spectacle bear, giant panda, sun bear, brown bear, Asiatic black bear, sloth bear, and very familiar bear which is seen only in the polar region, that is the polar bear.
So, how was the trip? Did you enjoy it well? So, dear students, what we have discussed today? Yes, very good. The origin of Earth, the various theories which have given support to the origin of life on Earth. So, by the word, signing up here. Thank you.